The Republicans in Congress just passed a major tax plan, the biggest part of which is a huge permanent tax cut for corporations. Now, this is almost sure to lead to big increases in the deficit and cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and many other programs. Now, they say that cutting corporate taxes increases income a lot for the rest of us, middle class and working folks. But do they really? Fortunately, we have 40 years of reality to test this theory of trickle-down prosperity. From end of World War II until the middle of the 1970s, corporate income tax rates were at 50% and higher, and the top marginal tax rate on the wealthiest earners was between 70 and 90%. We'll call this the high tax period, which we're going to mark in blue. Now, from the early 1980s until about the present, corporate tax rates have been much lower, dropped to 35%, while the top marginal tax rate has been between 30 and 40% on the richest Americans. We'll call this period the low tax period, marked in red. So, how did families fare? Well, lower income workers, like fast food workers who greet us at McDonald's or Walmart, their incomes increased on average by 117%. During the high tax period. But during the low tax period, when their incomes are supposed to be increasing, they actually declined by 7%. What about working class people, like a welder or a construction worker? Well, during the high tax period, their incomes increased by almost 100%. And yet, during the low tax period, when their income was supposed to be rising, they only increased by a paltry 4%. The pattern is the same for middle-class workers, like a nurse or an engineer, or for professionals, like an architect or a physician's assistant. Both groups saw their income increase by over 100% during the high tax period and by much, much smaller amounts during times of low corporate tax rates. The entire GOP tax plan rests on the myth that when we cut corporate tax rates, prosperity trickles down to working and middle-class folks. But as we've seen, if you work in fast food, construction, welder, a nurse, an engineer, a teacher, and others, we fare much better when tax rates are higher than when we've cut the corporate tax rate to the bone. This myth has got to be debunked along with the Republican tax plan.